I think the very fact that he's said things like there are hurt people on both sides, that he wants the jury to come to the right decision, means that he genuinely believes that he's got a case. Like I don't think he fully understands what he's done. Like I think he knows he's physically run over people and he's ended their lives, but I think that even though he might know at a very deep level, I think superficially he thinks that he's got a good outcome of this case potentially.
Well, let me do this, because I had a conversation. I've done this a couple times. The way that he would have wanted to argue this case, and tell me if I'm wrong, because you guys have both Spidey and you, Dr. Dawes, have seen him enough. The way he would have wanted to argue this case, if he was so permitted, he would have said, "Look, I came to town to collect money from my ex-girlfriend. We had it out. She's had it in for me for a long period of time. She escalated a confrontation, and I had to respond by getting more confrontational in that. All of a sudden, cops were called, and I had to get out of there so that I could avoid the circumstance of going to jail because of what she did by escalating this situation. I ended up on a parade route, and I had nowhere else to go, so I didn't have an alternative but to proceed straight through the parade. I honked my horn to try and get people out of the way, but when they didn't leave, the proper thing that I knew that I was going to go to jail, and if I went to jail, I would have been killed or my life would have been taken from me. So I thought that I was justified in mowing people over because it was escaping a situation that my girlfriend caused, and she's the ultimate cause of all of this."
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty flimsy, isn't it? I think most people would doubt that would actually work. Even if he could say that he was provoked into agitation, there's no sort of psychiatric reason there that would have prevented him from knowing what he was doing.
The police were shooting at him at one part of it. So using Rob's scenario, we could say, I was in the middle of it. All of a sudden they were shooting at me. I'm trying to escape the fire of the bullets or whatever. I don't know. It's obvious.
I was just putting myself in his mind, having watched the interview notes, his engagement with the court, the opening statement, the closing argument. In his mind, at least my belief is that's what he feels. Like that's how he justifies it to himself. He is a victim here because he would not be here if it wasn't for that first confrontation. Like, look at the witnesses he examined. It all went back to that first confrontation.
That could be.
Just to add to that, Rob, it seems like he's fully 100% invested in these beliefs, right? It doesn't feel like he's just trying his best to get away with it. I think Correct. He really doesn't think he's guilty, which is insane. Like that in itself.
Well, that's why you're here. So on that note, does he have actually? I feel like he has a personality disorder versus a mental illness, but yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Sure. Okay. So just very quickly for your viewers, the difference between a personality and a mental illness is as follows. So mental illness is like a change of your baseline state where you have active symptoms. Typically.
You muted yourself.
Oh, no, he's muted
yourself.
The most important part. And he goes silent.
Right. Don't know what happened then. Sorry about that. Particularly in a case where there might be a psychiatric defense, it's usually a psychosis. So something like hearing voices, paranoid delusions. I've assessed cases where people have attacked people violently or even killed because they have these delusions that their life is under threat by that person. A personality disorder is much more kind of a persistent stain. So it's your internal characteristics. It's your baseline, and it's there all the time in all different scenarios. So I think that this man, Darrell Brooks, almost certainly has antisocial personality disorder. So that is, being aggressive, being impulsive, not having empathy, not caring about the difference between right and wrong. So that I would fairly confidently diagnose that from what I know about him, even before the court case. So, his previous charges, battery, weapons, assaulting police officers, drugs, firearms, like he's a career criminal. But from his behavior during the actual trial, I was saying this before we started recording, I think he's got paranoid personality disorder. So he clearly doesn't trust others, the judge, witnesses, the entire legal system. He is very hypersensitive to criticism. He's really kind of able to, what Rob was saying before, he's got this external locus of control. That's the psychiatric term. So he's unable to accept responsibility for his own actions. It's everybody else's fault, but it's not his. And most importantly, he's hostile, he's stubborn, and he's argumentative, very argumentative. So to me, that is the diagnosis that would most appropriately fit him.
Quick question. I believe in the DSM, they don't actually list psychopathy and sociopathy. Do those fall under antisocial
Yeah. So antisocial personality disorder is all those things that I said. And then psychopathy is all of those things plus an element of manipulation, an element of charm, and of being parasitic. So you're always kind of leeching off other people or trying to take advantage of other people. And also you have a complete lack of empathy. Whereas in antisocial personality disorder, you can have empathy to a degree. And then sociopathy is like a version of psychopathy, but psychopaths are kind of better at blending in and hiding their personality traits, whereas sociopaths are a lot more kind of reactive and impulsive.
So would he fall into either of those two for their definitions, or is he just on the baseline antisocial?
From what I know about him, and forgive me, I've not done as much research as you guys have, but from what I know about him, I don't think he's that charming or manipulative, is he? He's forceful and he's argumentative, but he's not like, I mean, you mentioned Ted Bundy before, right? He's a prototype psychopath. He's actually quite charming and deceitful. I don't think Darrell Brooks is that charming, so I don't think he's a psychopath. No.
You would think, though, Dr. Dawes, that in the way that he speaks, that he expects more sympathy than he actually gets. Like he talks to the judge in certain ways that would suggest it's worked for him before with other people, maybe with less intelligent people, maybe with, like, I don't know if it's ex-partners, ex-friends, but you said parasitic lifestyle. I have no trouble believing that this guy is a complete leech. I don't know why. I just get that vibe that he owes a lot of people money. I don't know why. I just
it has worked. Hold on, it has worked for him, Rob. He what was it? He was currently on bail from jumping bail previously. Wasn't he like a triple bail jumper or something where he kept letting him out? So I mean, he's somehow manipulating the system in a way. I don't know if he's manipulating the people.
He doesn't do it. I don't know that he was manipulating it. He was profiting from. He was directly benefiting and profiting from the system that was put in place. I don't think he did it intentionally. I think he fell into it. Like he got these bail terms and all these different things because that was what the system was geared to try and fix. He just happens to be the extreme example of maybe the system fixed itself and over adjusted in a certain way, which is why you've scaled back and seen more people asking for cash bail to come back on the table and different stuff like that. On the topic of him thinking he's more persuasive than he is, this guy put a music video out that was rather graphic and rather terrible. I mean, he threw it out on his social media. He had video clips of him, and I shared it with Spidey of what was it? Him just going off and talking about how the girl that he was with, yes, she was 16 when she got with him because she told him he was 18, and all of a sudden she's pregnant, and that justifies his behavior.
Well, he did that in court.
Yeah. Listen, the amount at which I'm seeing this kind of delusional expectancy, like when he talks to people, because we all looked at it and went like, does any part of him expect this to work? But the fact that he went this long not realizing that it doesn't work, to me indicates that maybe in certain circumstances, this did work. Like he did pull this off successfully on people. I'm thinking about the moment where he was talking to the judge about he said, one of the witnesses tomorrow, I want to do such and such with one of the witnesses, and I might have, take longer with them and bring them in a little later. And the judge was like, okay, well, can you tell me who it is? And he's being all coy and like he's being trying to play fun with it. And he's smiling. He's like, what if I don't want to tell you? And it's like, is this really the time? You're on trial for having killed 6 people. Can you take the judge seriously, please? And Rob and I, you need to take breaks when we're filming that. I don't know if you all saw that. Doc, see that?
There was another part too, Spidey, where a witness said, he goes, did you see the vehicle? And the witness said, you didn't see him during the time, but the witness said, yeah, it was smashed to shit. And he laughed.
Yeah, like there are these moments where he's like trying to be playful and fun. And I look at it and I go, he's had people in his life who allowed this to work. It's the only reason I can explain that he's in front of adults and he's behaving this way. Because,
I'll tell you what I think, Spidey. So I think you're probably right. I think in the past he's been able to manipulate or control some people, probably through intimidation. He's a pretty scary guy and he's got a long criminal record. However, going back to what we were talking about before, I don't think he's a psychopath, and I'll explain why. Because a psychopath is so good at manipulating people, they're able to change their behavior and presentation. And people generally like psychopaths before they realize they're psychopaths, right?
What about sociopaths?
So sociopaths are kind of somewhere in between what we're talking about, antisocial and psychopaths, but they're still very manipulative. So the reason that I don't think that Brooks is a psychopath is because he would have known that his behavior is pissing off the judge and is not helping him. not helping his case. A true psychopath would be clever enough to like, they're like chameleons. They can slide in and change their presentation, change their arguments, change the tone of their voice.
Sure.
And a true psychopath would figure out how to get the judge on his side. Whereas it seems like Darrell Brooks is doing the opposite of that. He's
Back to Bundy.
Without even realizing it.
Back to Bundy. At the end, the judge said, "You're an amazing young man. I am so sorry you didn't go down another path in your life. You've done I don't remember all of it, but he was saying,
you could have been a great lawyer.
Yeah, you could have been a great lawyer. You did a wonderful job, and I sentenced you to die." But it was a crazy juxtaposition, but the judge genuinely liked him. And so, yeah, I never thought he was a psychopath. I was just questioning if he could slide into the sociopathy realm, because the sociopathy, from what I've understood, is somebody who's turned into a quasi-psychopath through being institutionalized, like being in prison, being beat up, being in gang, definitely a nurture over nature type of condition. But correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know this stuff.
Yeah, sociopaths are like diet psychopaths, I'd say. So they have.
I'm going to write that down. I have to write that down.
Psychopath 0.
As long as you quote me every time you use it, Rob. So you're right. They're more about nature. They're more about nurture than they are nature. So they're kind of built through childhood experiences. Psychopaths are as well, but sociopaths more so. But I don't know. This guy, this Darrell Brooks, he's not. He's got the antisocial aspect, but to me, he doesn't have the charm and manipulation aspects to even be a sociopath. Because the very fact that, right, let's put it this way, all 5 of us dislike the guy openly. Right?
Oh, yes.
True, yeah.
If he was a psychopath, we'd at least, he's killed 6 people, but we'd at least sympathize with some aspects of him or understand his point of view.
Or find him fascinating or find him interesting even. Even if we didn't like him, he would be captivating or interesting or fascinating in some ways, where this guy I want to punch him. I'm spending so much time wanting to punch him. And I think most people do. It's like, stop. I mean, it is infuriating. Part of the reason I haven't been able to watch as much is A, I don't have time, and B, I can only tolerate it for so long